Live from Thessaloniki, Greece. This is ManDate with Con and Skeleton Extraordinaire Cassie Hawrysh. I don't know how to say your last name.
We should have checked that before. It's Hawrysh.
Hawrysh. Sorry, I should have checked that before. That's my fault.
It's all good.
I do apologize. But Cassie, you're joining us all the way from my hometown, Calgary, Alberta. Thanks for coming on the show. This is the first international guest I've had on the podcast. First one that I've done legitimately with a someone from overseas. So thanks for being on the show, and thanks. You actually approached me. I usually hassle and have to stalk everyone else, but you actually approached me, so it was a huge honor to have someone like you approach me and to come on the show. So I want to say thank you, and you're more than welcome on the show.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, honestly, I saw the podcast and I figured, well, why not? How come it's just a ManDate? I feel like you guys need some more girls on there. So I figured you'd be keen.
More girls on the ManDate, for sure. Now, Cassie, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a professional athlete. Your chosen sport is skeleton.
A professional athlete, skeleton racer for Team Canada, and I started doing this sport in 2009, but my background was in volleyball and track and field, and I did both of those in university.
Yeah, and that was sort of going to be my first question is the sport and clean and want you to make the jump.
Oh, Wi-Fi. I heard none of that question, so we're gonna have to repeat it. Sorry.
No problem. You said you did. You played volleyball and you ran track at the collegiate level at university. So what prompted you to make the jump to skeleton? I'm sure you get this question asked all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not a sport that people typically dream of. You don't hear a lot of kids telling all their friends they want to be professional tobogganers, and certainly I'd never seen it as a child. So after I graduated university with a degree in journalism and was still running track and field outdoors, so to some degree at a higher level certainly, and had met some coaching staff and some friends through that, and I was living in Regina, Saskatchewan at the time. Originally I'm from Manitoba though, just so we're just covering all the prairies at this point. Running over stationary objects and knowing I might crash to doing something at 140 and not being sure if I'm going to crash. So yeah, I wasn't sure, but I was in a place where I wanted to try something new, so I came to Calgary and was able to train that summer and got to try it in October of 2009 and got to the bottom and thought it was rad and wanted to go again. So I've been going back to the top and back to the bottom every time this will be my 7th season coming up. So
that's so cool. So that's so cool. I have so many questions, but first, just for people that not sure like me, could you just briefly, in layman's terms, give us the difference between bobsled, luge, and skeleton?
Sure. Okay. So bobsleigh, a lot of people know, more people know, will say, and I'll attribute it not just because it's a giant bathtub with 4 people in it, but because of cool runnings. And we'd like to thank the Jamaican bobsled team and Disney apparently for making that popular. But so all of the 3 sliding sports that you just mentioned, so bobsleigh, skeleton, and luge, all use the same track that you would see in that movie. So they're all different lengths, but about a kilometer or so long, and they're iced up always, essentially like an outdoor rink, just really long and skinny and twisting and turning. And so bobsleigh, there's 2-man and 4-person, we'll call it now, because actually women are also allowed to be in both. So there's 2 men and 2 women, and then 4-person bobsleigh, and that's with the huge sled and a bunch of people, and everyone runs and pushes and gets in. Then there's luge, and luge is feet first, and there's singles luge and double luge, and that's where luge. That's interesting as well. But then there's skeleton, what I do, and that's by myself, head first, on a glorified tea tray, essentially a cafeteria tray. And we push our sled by ourselves from the same place as the bobsledders do, and we about 40, 50 meters, and then we launch ourselves onto our sleds and try to calm down and be fast.
Yeah. No, and so why did you choose skeleton over the other 2 sports?
Well, I don't know so much as if I chose it or it chose me. Luge is something that seemingly, if you look back to how they start them, they start like kids in luge very early because it's easier in terms of the sled is very light. So that wasn't something that I ever did. And to be honest, there's this joke that we make where why would you bring the Christmas tree in bottom first when it goes in the door? Better like tip first.
That's good.
So go with your head. But no, for me, like I like to see exactly where I'm going. Luge, you have to look down your body and you actually steer with your feet. Yeah. And skeleton, I steer with my shoulders and my knees into the sled, and you actually like torque the sled in the pressures. And I'm too little for bobsleigh, so I'd get inside the sled and be bashed around like no one's business. So I figured this, I'm supposed to.
Okay, cool. I'm getting like nervous just thinking about what you do on a daily basis. Like I'm getting like putting myself in it, and I'm getting the butterflies as we speak. And one thing I wanted to bring up, because I know the whole movie. You mentioned Cool Runnings, and the whole idea behind Cool Runnings was taking professional athletes that were track stars. The original Jamaican boss, they took track stars from the Jamaican Army, and they just said they wanted to put them on ice and lightning on ice and that type of thing. And I wanted to ask you, is your background in the track and field, do you think that has sort of gave you a huge advantage over other people when it comes to skeleton? Has that been an advantage at all, or does it not really matter?
I would say for sure. I mean, I ended up joining the track team and expecting to do sprints and possibly jumps, and I got put in the heptathlon. So for anyone that doesn't know, that's the 7-event, 2-day situation. So I had to learn everything as fast as possible, and I think in that respect it really kind of coming into a different sport and needing to play catch up a little bit when I joined the skeleton team. So I did join when I was 25, and some people would say, well, weren't you supposed to be doing other things at that point? But I don't know, I didn't see that list. Mm-hmm. So certainly the dedication and you start developing at an elite level in any sport would lend itself to try. But skeleton, something that certainly the start is from my track and field background. Like just because you can sprint doesn't necessarily mean you can push a sled, because it is.
Yeah.
Holding on to something, it's a lot heavier than you think it is. It's about 30 kilos. So about 6 of the men's. Yeah, so all those things lent themselves to a career in a sport that I would have never imagined. But I guess that that says like you never know what you're actually building towards when you're doing everything else in your life. So. Yeah.
No, that's so cool. Now, what sort of stage are you at right now? I mean, you've tell us a little bit about your record as a professional skeleton racer. You're on Team Canada. Tell us some of your accomplishments. Brag about yourself a little bit.
Okay, here we go. So most recently, I was the Olympic alternate for the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. And outside of that, I have three World Cup medals, and countless other podiums on all the other international circuits. I have overall titles and third place recently on Intercontinental Cup overall for the women. I was the Canadian champion the same year as I was the Olympic alternate. And yeah, I'm looking to continue that streak of forward momentum. So the goal now is to continue getting on the podiums and reaching the World Championships for the next couple years and challenging for the gold there, and then the South Korea Games in 2018.
That's so cool. So how does it work then? So because each track is different, how do you do you have like personal records? Is there like how does it work when you're comparing you against other skeleton racers?
Yeah, so a race, I'll just kind of explain how races work. So every track in the world, there's 2 tracks in Canada, 2 tracks in the US, and then the rest in Europe, in Germany, some in Austria, France, Switzerland. Each track, essentially, every time you go, the corners are the same, all that stuff stays the same. The conditions can change, of course, in terms of weather, but ultimately, so we would go to a track in anywhere in the world during a race season, and you would get 3 days, 2 runs a day to reaccustom yourself, to choose equipment, to make decisions for the race. So you get a total of 6 minutes to either learn or relearn the track, because usually we haven't been there, in most cases, certainly other than your home tracks, for about a year. And so you have those 6 minutes to get yourself sorted and make a plan. And then the race itself will occur, and then it's a typical race outside of World Championships and the Olympics is 2 runs. It's a 2-heat race. So you'll go in the order that you're drawn, so they'll actually do a draw, and then the next heat, the next run is last to fast, and they go top 20 in any race. So 20 would go first, and then first would go last off. And then they do your combined times. In terms of personal bests and stuff like that, that's always like there's track records, there's push records for each track. There's like Canadian records and all that kind of stuff, and that changes from year to year depending on who's in the field and the equipment and all that stuff. But ultimately, we go to a track, you want the fastest 2 runs possible, and you win. And in Olympics and World Championships, it's 4 runs over 2 days. So that's the difference.
Okay. And then how many women are on the Canadian national skeleton team?
So the Canadian national team would be the World Cup circuit and the ICC Intercontinental Cup circuit, and there are 6 women. And 6 men.
Okay. Now, so I just have so many questions here. One thing I wanted to ask was
total team is 12.
Okay. I think the Wi-Fi is cutting out. Can you hear me? Cassie, oh yeah, you frozen. Well, looks like the Wi-Fi with Cassie got frozen, and she left, and now she's coming back. And can you hear me?
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had to leave the call and come back just to make that work. So
yeah.
Okay.
No problem. I'm not sure if it's my Wi-Fi or if it's your Wi-Fi. I don't know.
Could be either. My house is hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes it's so good, and sometimes it's real bad. So.
Well, that's all right. So sorry, you were saying there was 6 women on the national skeleton team? And
yeah,
then...
correct. 6 women and 6 men. So the total national team for Canada is 12 individuals.
Okay. Now, 2 quick questions. How good is the track in Calgary? Because I live right beside, or my parents live right beside that track, and I drive by it almost every day. How good is it? How does it rate on a world stage?
Calgary is a good track. It was a really good learning track, and I mean, it's home, so we love it in its own respect. It gets kind of a bad rap sometimes. We have, in terms of the fact that there's a lot of wind here, so we have a lot of issues with kind of dirt blowing into the track, and when we have international races, there's a lot of need for them to keep the shades down, which is like these huge giant tarps that we pull down in front to try to keep the sun and the dirt out. But when an international race comes, they really want the coaches and everyone want to see inside because they'll video to try to get, you know, what people are doing. And so there's a lot of fight in terms of that when people come to Calgary and they get frustrated. But for the most part, Calgary, I mean, it's got the speed. It has really cool areas for lots of spectating, big straightaway, a huge Kreisel, which is circle in German, and so it's a 270-degree corner, which is awesome because you can stand in the middle of it and watch these sleds just, you know, rush by, whether it's us or bobsleigh or luge. And yeah, in terms of track difficulty, we refer to Calgary as easy to get down and hard to get down fast. So that's why it's a good learning track, because you could ultimately, I love bringing friends and family and getting people out to discover skeletons where they come down from a bit lower, because it's scary, but it's not as dangerous as you might expect it to be in terms of your chances of falling off. And you'll still get to go like 90 kilometers an hour, which is rad. So, yeah.
Well, that was I wanted to. Have you ever had a serious crash, or have you crashed before? Injury
I've absolutely crashed. That's kind of, you're on the edge with skeleton, right? You're trying to find that absolute edge. So if you're able to just stay on this side of it where you're going as fast as you possibly can, then you're golden. And if you go just on the other side of that line, well, you just crashed your sled. So when I first started learning what you're that you have to really nail your steers, so you have to do exactly what you needed to do on the right time. And rookie mistake every single time, happens to almost everyone. You just roll yourself out of the corner and you end up on your back with either your sled away from you or on top of you, one or the other. And I've done both. And but in terms of epic crashes, nothing. I've never seriously injured myself crashing. I've had some scary ones in some new tracks where I've actually there's a track in France that they say you have to go in as late as possible, which would be on corner, and you steer with all your might, like hang your leg off if you're a girl, because you need to be so strong. And if you don't do all these things exactly right, you will hit the roof at the exit. And for a startling thing, of course it happened my first run. I nailed the side of the sled at the very top of the roof, and they've actually built like a bit of a low roof so that it would push you down right away. So your sled has bumpers, like steel bumpers on the outside. So you as long as you're inside your sled, in terms of shape, the sled will take the majority of it. But it was such a weird sound because you're just used to hearing like iced up walls or maybe hitting like part of your arm someplace, and it was the whole sled in this wood sound, and it totally startled me, and I don't even remember the rest of the run. Not because I hit my head, but because I was so distracted by that one moment that then the rest of it was just fight or flight. Like I just wanted to get off my sled, and I'm like, we need to get to the bottom. Let's just I don't ever want to do that again. But in the same run, one of the world's best male skeleton athletes in the same training run did the exact same thing. So I felt validated that it was a totally legitimate mistake.
Well, that's good. That's good because that'd be like the first thing that enters my mind is like crashing and like getting seriously injured. But you just got no fear.
The thing is, the same day I had to get back on my sled like 20 minutes later and go again and be like, don't make that mistake again. You need to know what's happening in this track if you want to race. So, for sure. And we do, and people ask, like, do we lose our sleds? Well, you try your best not to, because it's an expensive piece of equipment. and you don't really want it going down by itself because it will hit everything. So the one thing they can't teach you, and some people have never crashed, but I have, and have discovered that inherently I know how to catch my sled if I lose it on occasion, and I have done that. I've fallen off and it's been ahead of me, and by some magical skeleton and finish the run. So, you know, traveling at over 100 kilometers an hour on your speed suit, you got to get yourself back on, because you're on your own skin.
Jeez, that's wild. That's absolutely wild. Well, you touched on an interesting point there. That one thing I wanted to mention, you said that sled is an expensive piece of equipment. How does it work? I want to know. This is your full-time gig. You know, you're not working anywhere else, I'm assuming, right?
I do try to hold some kind of a part-time job or contract position during the season whenever I can. That it requires a lot of flexibility, certainly, but yeah, we definitely need the extra income. So almost all of us have some kind of a job.
What kind of part-time job do you do?
Because of my journalism degree, usually I try to maintain some kind of a public relations job or communications, freelance position sometimes, depending on what I can do. And then on top of that, I also have public speaking engagements, like with schools or with groups. Whenever I can do those are awesome. I love that. I love that a lot. Season doesn't really lend itself very well to the schools all the time because we're away during a lot of the school year, but certainly kind of April to the end of the school season, I try to get in and talk with schools and you know, get everybody interested in skeleton, and just so that's kind of the other part of it. Yeah, to answer your question as much as I can.
Yeah, no, it's cool just because, you know, you hear so much about which sports are getting this much funding, and it's a shame this sport doesn't get this much funding, and there's been cuts to this one, and I sort of want to know how does skeleton fit in all there, like.
So yeah, this past season, during the year of the Olympics, we got a good chunk of money, about $900,000 for the team, and that doesn't go to one individual or anything, but they do. So bobsleigh and skeleton are one group, but we get funded differently, like separately. And this past season, however, funding organizations determined that there was no potential. They weren't happy with the results from the games and from the past, so they actually cut all the funding entirely. And we actually had to fire whatever you want to say. We had to let go of all the coaching staff and everyone like that. So contracts couldn't be completed, so they were null and void. And it took us a while it was very last minute. We did get a new head coach. But our CEO had stepped down after that. Our financial advisors had left, and so ultimately we were kind of floating in the sea of, well, we're still going forward. What do we do? So, but you know, honestly, it was a testament to the entire team and all the athletes. We were told essentially, most of this season, if not 100% of it, will be on your dime. We do not have any money for you, regardless of your past performances. You know, there were some athletes were identified as the new future, and they were given some money, but not all of us did. And I was the most expensive season I've ever had. But we all really love this sport, and we love what we do, and everyone's very determined to get their end goal, and so nobody walked away from it, and we all, you know, paid this year. Results, if you go look up, especially on the women's side, lots of medals and some great world championship results, and ultimately that's gonna help. But in terms of my own personal situation, so I'm a carded athlete, which means that the government will pay per month, and it's only up to a maximum of $1,500 a month. So I don't know, a lot of a month if you can, but we definitely have to, you know, funnel some extra income into that. So sponsors are a huge, huge part of this as well, and that's on each individual athlete to get those. And I do those relationships and create new ones. And otherwise, yeah, I mean, I own all my own equipment, and this past season paid for everything, so flights, hotels, yeah, but we still had a head coach, and we'll continue to, rebuild our coaching staff and hopefully so that it's not situations.
Right. Wow. That I don't know what to say. That's I didn't know any of that. So that's really interesting. That's like the whole other side of the Olympics that you never see. You know what I mean?
We're not. Go ahead.
Like everyone just sees the pride and glory, and everyone wants, any Canadian to get a gold medal, no matter the sport. But no one really sees, like, behind the scenes what you guys need in order to achieve that. And sometimes in some cases, you guys, there's plenty of cases you guys aren't getting the proper funding that you guys need.
Yeah, it's a tough battle. Skeleton's not unique. It's that swing between Winter and Summer Olympics too that we struggle with on both sides of the coin, because the year before the Winter Games, all this money starts piling in, and it's awesome, and that's exactly what we want. But same with summer. A couple years before Summer Games, everybody's funneling their money that way. That's great as to years. 4 years where we might have been struggling, and yeah, sure, you're going to see a lot of gains, but you're also going to see sadly some people have to walk away from the sport, because we can't also, it's like anything else. If you paid your boss to be at your job and they were like, well, we might pay you some money in 3 years from now, so if you can just hold on but just keep paying us, just hold on, you love it though, so you stay. It's it's a very strange thing when you compare it to that, and this is my job.
Yeah, no.
So it absolutely is, and it's my passion too. So that's.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, kids, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I have thousands of questions here, but I'm gonna try to limit them because I don't want to take time. Ideally, what is like your full job. This is your passion. And you seem so sincere about it, and you absolutely seem to love what you're doing. What I want to know is, how far do you see yourself doing this for? At what stage do you say, yeah, maybe now I'm going to give up the sport? Is it 5 years, 10 years? I don't know how long skeleton racers last. And then what's your goal or plan for after skeleton life is over?
So for me, honestly, I've been asked that question lots, and certainly my end goal was always the 2018 games, and that's not end as in, okay, that's it, walk away. I still have a passion to help this sport in all kinds of ways, so a coaching situation is very much possible. Right now it's tough to do both, so I help when I can. But for me, and my passion before this in terms of career-wise was journalism, and I went into that field because I love writing, and I love reporting and all the things that come with it. So I see this career and all the people that I've met and the experiences lend itself to a career that I was looking for anyways. What will that be? I have no idea. I know sportscasting, traveling, and writing, who knows? Yeah. But in my mind, I see things kind of coming together, and I'm always actively looking and meeting and garnering those relationships, because it's important to have those things kind of on the radar as well. It's great to be so uniquely focused, but this is only to a certain point, and when that point, hopefully it's my decision. Any other athlete, I'm aware sometimes your body gives up as well, and I've certainly pushed mine to some extreme limits over the past decades. So you gotta be prepared for anything. That's not to say that I wouldn't be sad if that happened, but I'm not I'm not like worried or scared of the possible future without a consistent life of skeleton. But that's not yet. So we'll wait for that one to come in a few years.
Yeah. Can I just say, I think when you do have to give up the sled, I think you would make an excellent like TV personality, or like TV host, or like a sports analyst or something. You know what I mean?
Awesome. I will take your glowing resume of recommendation, and I will send it over to TSN and everyone, and we'll see what we get.
Oh, totally, man. Totally. No problem. Well, listen, guys, I don't want to take up any more of your time. So no, I think we'll end it here, because I want to save some for some of my questions for round 2 when I'm back in Calgary, and we can do a face-to-face interview, and there won't be any Wi-Fi interruptions.
Okay, perfect. We'll face-to-face, and you can just come at me with a scroll of questions, and then maybe I'll have some questions for the ManDates.
Yeah, I didn't even ask you. Is there anything you would like to say, or anything you want to get out there before we end the show?
No, honestly, I just hope that everyone that listens to it, all 14 people, no, I'm just joking, that everybody.
Okay? We got 15, okay? My mom just figured out how to download it, all right?
All of the fans. I hope that everybody kind of follows along and joins this like adventure that I'm saying. For me is to like every 4 years, but it's every year for us, and we might not be able to be in the Red Bull X Games or anything, but what I do is equally as cool as those things, so why not hype it a little bit more? I'd love that. And if you guys know any teachers that need a school talk at, call me up.
Yo, my sister's a teacher.
Well, I feel like we need to talk.
Yes, we will do that. Oh, that's so cool. All right. Well, this has been ManDate, episode 76 with Con and Cassie. All right. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, check her